Здоров, с вами Макана 2016. Начинаем прохождение одной игры, которая называется Дорогая Эстер. Дорогая Эстер. В чем эта игра? Эта игра, конечно же, история любви, потерь, вины и воздаяния. Ну, конечно, там говорится, что там мы появляемся в этом острове, крушение, и рядом какая-нибудь книга. Моя веки пещера девушка. У нас 4. И начинаем. Всем приятного
Dear
просмотра.
Esther, the
Дорогая
gulls
Эстер,
do not land
чайки
here
больше не
anymore.
прилетают.
I've noticed
В
that
этом году
this year
они,
they seem to shun the
похоже,
place.
избегают этого
Maybe it's the
места.
depletion of the fishing
Возможно,
stock
вина
driving
этому
them away.
истощение рыбных ресурсов.
Perhaps it's me.
А может, дело во мне?
When he first landed
Даниэль
here,
писал
Donnelly
после
wrote that
своей
the
первой
herds were
высадки,
sickly and their
что
shepherds the
скот
lowest of
здесь
the miserable
хилый,
classes that populate
и
these
самые
Hebridean
жалкие из
islands.
обитателей
300 years
острова.
later, even they
300
have
лет спустя
departed.
исчезли даже они. А, мы уже начинаем. Ничего себе. Ну, конечно, мне не нравится чувствительность. О, полиция. Где книга неизвестна. Так, два прохода. Ладно, сюда зайдем сюда. А. Тут обляпался красками. Обляпались. Чисто не хотят. Так, это что? Я не понял. Европа. Еда и хорошо. Какая-то карта. Шутить мы не можем, сразу скажу. Садиться тоже не можем. Ну, это не игра хоррор. Это ходьба. Даже Е не нажимается. Тут песня. Ну, значит, нам туда идти. Так, у нас тут две пути. Куда нам теперь идти? Ну да, атмосфера хорошая. Конечно, солнышко было бы. Лучше было. Ну, как всегда нас видно. Немножко
When you were born, your mother told me a
Твоя
hush
мать
fell over the
рассказывала, что
delivery
когда ты
room.
родилась, в
A
родильной
great red
палате
birthmark
воцарилась
covered the left side of your face.
всю левую
No one
половину
knew what
твоего
to
лица
say,
покрывала
so you
красная
cried to fill the
зима.
vacuum.
Никто не
I always
знал, что
admired you for
сказать, и
that,
тогда
that you cried to
закричала.
fill whatever vacuum
Меня
you
всегда
found.
восхищало, что ты
I began to
криком
manufacture
чувствовала
vacuums
вакуум,
just to
который
enable you to
тебя
deploy
окружал.
your talent.
Я соорудил,
The birthmark faded by the time you were 6
чтобы ты
and had
могла
gone
развивать
completely by the time we met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure remained.
все исчез. Но осталось твое пристрастие к пустоте, кому позволили ее преодолеть.
Dear Esther,
Дорогая
I found
Эстер,
myself to be
я
as
понял,
featureless
что я
as
так
this ocean, as
безлик,
shallow and
как этот
unoccupied as
океан,
this bay,
также
a
имел
listless wreck
вкус,
without
как
identification.
этот залив. Не заставь здесь
My rocks are
кругом.
these bones
Я
and a
поздно
careful
корабль.
fence to
Мои
keep the
скалы, вот
precipice at
эти
bay.
кости, служащие
Shot
ограждением
through
на
me
краю обрыва,
caves.
что над заливом.
My forehead
Меня
a mound.
пронизывают пещеры.
This
Мой
area
лоб
will
гора.
transmit into
И
me
эта
so.
радиовышка передает
All
сигнал прямо внутрь
overexposed,
меня.
the nervous system,
Я выверну
where Donnelly's
наизнанку.
boots and yours
Вот
and
моя
mine
нервная
still
система,
travel.
которая по-прежнему
I will carry a
топчется по
torch for you.
Китеней. И
I will
мои,
leave it at the foot
твои,
of my
я несу
headstone.
тебе фонарик.
You will need it
Поставлю
for
его
the
у
tunnels
подножия
that
моего
carry
на
me
кораблях.
under.
Но тебе пригодится в туннеле, когда я буду. Значит, нам не сюда. Сюда. Да нет. Так, вот, первый. Во-вторых, ограничения нет. Даже прыгать нельзя. Золотое сечение. А, вот, лестница-то и здесь. Я думал, что до начала нужно дойти. А тут и есть как раз. Нужно идти. Ага, нам куда не те говорят. Значит, нам сюда.
A wonderful sight.
Прекрасный вид.
The moon
Луна
cresting the junction
над
between the cliff
проходом
path
между
and the
горной
stone
тропинкой
circle.
и кругом
It cast a
камня.
shadow of the ridge across the
Тень
beach,
горной вершины
all the
накрыла
world
берег,
as if you had
совсем
signed
как
your name
имя,
in untidy
написанное тобой
handwriting.
на песке. Нерашливым почерком. А мы можем спуститься. Тут даже ограничений нет. Можно падать и заново подняться.
When someone had died or
Когда
was
кто-нибудь
dying,
умирал
or was
или
so
был
ill they
настолько
gave up
плохо,
what little
что они
hope they could
теряли надежду,
sacrifice,
они высекали на
they
утёсы
cut parallel
параллельные
lines
и
into the cliff, exposing the white
вставлявшие
chalk.
меловые следы. Их можно было заметить
You could see
издали
them
и
from
понять,
the
что
mainland
нужно
or the
писать
fishing
вам,
boats
либо вести
and know to send
и
aid
высшее
or
поколение,
impose a cordon
пока
of
эпидемия
protection.
не исчезнет вместе с
Wait a
соседами на
generation
скале
until
и их
whatever
создателей.
pestilence stalked the
Такова
cliff
же их
path
цель
died
и
along with
не
its
допустить
hosts.
сюда потенциально.
My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay.
Потенциальных
The infection is
спасателей.
not
Эта
simply of
инфекция
the
поражает
flesh.
не только тело.
They were God-fearing people, those shepherds.
Пастухи
There
эти
was no
были
love in the
богобоязненны.
relationship.
любви их
Donnelly
отношений не
tells
было.
me that
Только
they had one
сохранили
Bible that was
одна
passed
Библия,
around in
которая
strict
передавали друг
rotation.
другу в строгом порядке.
It was
В
stolen by a visiting
1776
monk in
году, за 2 года до
1776,
того, как
2
остров
years before the island was
ее
abandoned
упал какой-то
altogether.
заезжий монах. Это промежутки,
In the interim, I
думаю,
wonder,
не
did they
соотнесли
assign
ли
chapter and
они
verse to
те
the
или иные
stones and
камни
grasses,
и травы с
marking the
главными
geography with a
языками священников
superimposed
так,
significance
что
that they could actually
передвигается по
walk the Bible and
ней
inhabit
и
its
жить
contradictions?
и в ее противоречивой. Чух-чух-чух. Так, либо нам туда, либо нам сюда. Наверное, сюда.
Dear Esther,
Дорогая Эстер,
I met Paul.
я видел Пола.
I made my
Совершил
own
мое
little
маленькое
pilgrimage.
паломничество.
My
Мой Дамаск,
Damascus,
небольшой
a
домик
small
на
semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton.
Вулверхэмптона.
We
Мы
drank coffee
выпили
in his
кофе у
kitchen
него на
and
кухне.
tried to
Мы
connect
попытались
to
нащупать
one
пути
another.
к взаимопониманию.
Although he knew I hadn't come in
Также
search
зная,
of an
что я
apology,
явился не в
reason, or
поисках извинений
retribution,
или
he
воздаяния,
still
но
spiraled
все
in
равно
panic,
впадал в панику,
thrown high and
видя
loosened by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old.
Как и мы.
Like
Он
us,
уже
he'd already
вышел
passed beyond any
за любые
conceivable boundary of life.
мыслимые пределы жизни. Ну что, сюда? Вниз? А вот и пещера. Тут еще тропинка. Так, надо проверить. А, нет, не пройду туда. Проход закрыт. Это он первый. Это начало, как бы. И сказать пещера.
I find myself increasingly unable to
Мне все
find that
труднее
point
понять, где
where the
закончится
hermit
ошейник
ends and
и
Paul
где
and I
начинается
begin.
мы с Паулом.
We are woven into a sodden blanket, stuffed into the bottom of a boat to stop the leak and hold back the ocean.
Шея болит.
My neck aches from staring up at the aerial. It mirrors the dull throb in my gut where I'm sure I've begun to form another stone. In my dreams, it forms into a perfect representation of Lot's wife, head over her shoulder, staring along the motorway at the approaching traffic in a vacuum of fatalistic calm.
Нервы. Какое-то соединение. Если что. Покажите нервы. Может, кровяной сосуд. конечно, случается, когда далеко скрывается. Немножко громче. Так, очень включено.
He still maintains he
Он
wasn't drunk,
по-прежнему
but
утверждает,
tired.
что не был
I
пьян,
can't make the
а
judgment or the
устал.
distinction
Я уже не
anymore.
способен
I was
ставить
drunk when I
различия
landed
и
here,
действий.
and tired too.
Когда я
I
прибыл
walked up the
сюда,
cliff path
да
in
я
near
был
darkness
и
and
пьян,
camped
и
in the bay
уставший.
where the trawler
А
lies
еще в
beached.
сумерках я пошел вверх
It was only at
по
dawn that I saw the
берегу,
bothy
остался
and
неподалеку,
decided to make my
недалеко от
temporary
выброшенного
lodgings
тебе
there.
траулера.
I was expecting just the aerial and a transmitter stashed in a weatherproof
Решил
box somewhere on the
я
mount.
надеялся найти
It had
антенну
an air
и
of uneasy
передатчик
permanence to it.
погодостойком в контейнере.
Like all the other
Это на
buildings
горе.
here, erosion seems to have
Было
evaded
нечто
it
до странного
completely.
неизменно, как и в других здешних строениях. Следов разрушения практически нет. О, протекла
Dear
моя.
Esther,
Дорогая Эстер,
I have now
я
driven the
проехал
stretch of
по
the
участку
M5
шоссе
between
М5
Exeter and
от
Bristol over 21
Эксетера до
times.
Бристоля
But although I
21
have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my ordnance survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn off for Sanford and the welcome break services. But although I can always see it in my rearview mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull
Сейчас где-то
ashore.
между поворотом на Стэнфорд и заправкой Великой. Он на паузу нажмете, прочитайте. Сейчас пойдем туда, по прямому. Увидим, посмотрим.
It's only at night that this
Лишь
place
ночью
makes any
здесь
sluggish
жалко
effort at
подобной
life.
жизни. Можно
You can see
увидеть
the boy
океан,
and the aerial.
его делаешь
I've been taking to sleeping through the day
работу себе
in an
привычку спать
attempt to
днем,
resurrect
хоть как-то
myself.
восстановиться.
I can
Весь
feel the
мои
last
последние
days
дни.
drawing upon me.
Хотя смысл в том, чтобы
There's little
продолжить
point now
ощущение
in
осталось.
continuation.
Я должен найти здесь что-нибудь
There must be
невидимое,
something new
какую-нибудь
to find here.
точку или
Some
расщелину,
nook or
которая
some
могла бы
cranny
подать мне
that
новые
offers a perspective
перспективы.
worth clinging
Я
to.
сжег все мосты,
I've burnt my
пробил
bridges. I've sunk my boats
днище
and
всех своих
watched them go to
кораблей,
water.
смотрел, как они уходят под воду. Ага, тут ограничение уже все. Разрушили суд.
I had kidney stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk. There must be a hole in the bottom of the
Видимо,
boat.
днище судна
How else could new hermits have arrived?
Откуда здесь могли взяться новые ошейники? Камень? Какая-то там значение. Вот. Тут проход-то есть, да, это же дальше можно. Значит, это туда. Все-таки ограничено, оказывается. Но падать-то можно. Ого-го.
Is this what Paul saw through his
Было
windscreen?
ли это тем,
Not
кто
Lot's
был
wife
через
looking
другой
over her
склон?
shoulder, but a scar in the hillside, falling away to black forever.
На склоне холма, навсегда исчезнувший с собой. Man. Если тут прохода не будет, значит нужно будет прыгать. Ну, тут какой-то домишко стоит. Нужно проверить и узнать, что там. Вот одна домишка. Нет, не домишка, а...
I've begun my ascent on
Я
the
начал
green slope
восхождение
of
по
the western
западу.
side. I've looked deep into the mountain from the shaft and understood that I must go up and then find the way under. I will stash the last vestiges of my civilization in the stone walls and work deeper from there. I'm drawn by the aerial and the cliff edge. There is some form of rebirth waiting for me there.
Там меня ждет своего рода перерождение. Типа конюшни. Так, конюшни.
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
My heart is landful. Its false dawns waking into the still never light. I slept for you in the small hours and wrapped my blankets into a mass. I've always heard the waves break on these lost shores, always the gulls forgotten. I can lift this bottle to my ear, and all there ever is for me is this Hebridean music.
Предположительно ждали ребенка или болезнь. Тоже символ. Если посмотреть, то нервная система, кожная система, перерождение. Главный герой, как сказать, на острове. Может, приедешь сюда, после смерти жены. Не смирившийся, появился здесь. Это классно. Еще.
Jakobsen's ribcage, they told Donnelly, was deformed, the result of some birth defect or perhaps a traumatic injury as a child. Brittle and overblown it was, and desperately light. Perhaps it was this that finally did for him. Unable to contain the shattering of his heart, in half-light, his skeleton a discarded prop, a false and calcified seabird.
They found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. His fingernails were raw and bitten to the quick. They found the phosphorescent moss that grows in the caves deep under the nails. Whatever he'd been doing under the island when his strength began to fail is lost. He'd struggled halfway up the cliff again, perhaps in a delirium, perhaps trying to reach the Bothy's fire before curling into a stone and expiring. Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the Bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
Глаза подводить. Хвати голубаки.
Did Jakobsen crawl this far? Can I identify the scratches his nails ruined into the rocks? Am I following him cell for cell, inch for inch? Why did he turn back on himself and not carry through to the ascent?
Мань, ярко. Хо-хо. Вы что, издеваетесь? Слишком ярко. Тут красное что-то. Еман. Ты ярко, слишком ярко. Глаза режут. Мы же ползком шли.
They'd stop the traffic back as far as the Sanford Junction and come up the hard shoulder like radio signals from another star. It took 21 minutes for them to arrive. I watched Paul time it to the second on his watch.
Да?
I'm traversing my own death throes. The infection in my leg is an oil rig that dredges black muck up from deep inside my bones. I swallow fistfuls of diazepam and paracetamol to stay conscious. Pain flows through me like an underground sea. This cannot be the shaft they threw the goats
Это
into.
не может быть шахта, куда
It cannot be the landfill where the parts of your life that would not burn ended up. It cannot be the chimney that delivered you to the skies. It cannot be the place where you rained back down again to fertilize the soil and make small flowers in the rocks.
Так. Сколько красок поделал. Away from Win. This is and still very трудно вообще, трудно. Ой. Светло. Так графику стоит на высокой. Еще ярче светит. Широко. Операционный стол. Деньги. Капельница. Придите к голову пещеры.
sat here and watched two jets carve parallel white lines into the sky. They charted their course, and I followed them for 21 minutes until they turned off near Sanford and were lost. If I were a gull, I would abandon my nest and join them. I would starve my brain of oxygen and suffer delusions of transcendence. I would tear the bottom from my boat and sail across the motorways until I reached this island once again.
I returned home with a pocket full of stolen ash. Half of it fell out of my coat and vanished into the car's upholstery. But the rest I carefully stowed away in a box I kept in a drawer by the side of my bed. It was never intended as a meaningful act, but over the years it became a kind of talisman. I'd sit still, quite still for hours, just holding the diminishing powder in my palm and noting its smoothness. In time, we will all be worn down into granules, washed into the sea and dispersed.
подощите сердце. Я не помню. Предположительно, либо главный герой, либо его жена разбился в аварии, случился ДТП, пытались спасти, но не получилось. Поэтому не скучают. Поэтому нельзя же игра называется дорогая. Ну, еще так. Тут кто-то сидит неизвестно кто. Либо его жена, либо он сам солдат. Дорогая Esther, вот. Дорогая Esther. Esther, скажите. Есть та самая. Колеса, дверь. Ну, на фотке уже авария существует. Детали лежат.
There were chemical diagrams on the posters on the walls on the waiting room. It seemed appropriate at the time. Still life abstractions of the processes which had already begun to break down your nerves and your muscles in the next room. I crammed diazepam as I once crammed for chemistry examinations. I am revising my options for a long and happy life. From here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic. And I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
Есть корабль.
Come back.
Вернись. Как наш Там просто видите, что там.
I will drag my leg behind
Я
me.
пойду.
I will drag it like a crumpled hatchback, tires blown and sparking across the dimming lights of my vision. I'm running out of painkillers and am following the flicker of the moon home. When Paul keeled over dead on the road to Damascus, they restarted his heart with the jump leads from a crumpled hatchback. It took 21 attempts to convince it to wake up.
Человек.
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together. Donnelly had experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis, retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
Bent back like a nail, like a hangnail, like a drowning man clung onto the wheel, drunk and spiraled, washed onto the lost shore under a moon as fractured as a shattered wing. We cleave, we are flight and suspended, these wretched painkillers, this forming constant. I will take flight, I will take flight.
He was not drunk, Esther.
He
was not drunk at all. He had not drunk with Donnelly or spat Jacobson back at the sea. He had not careered across the lost shores and terminal beaches of this nascent archipelago. He did not intend his bonnet to be crumpled like a spent tissue by the impact. His windscreen was not star-studded all over like a map of the heavens. His paintwork edged with circuit diagrams, strange fish to call the gulls away. The phosphorescence of the skid marks lighting the M5 all the way from Exeter to Damascus.
Ну да, плюс идет диалог. Ну-ка затрудните. 5000 шагов.
Twin vapor trails in the air, white lines etched into these rocks. Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jacobson? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an aerial, a beacon that they will not forget you. We have always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jacobson flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent. Come back.
Всем спасибо, что посмотрели до конца. Всем удачи, всем пока.